What's up, guys? My name's Ty Coy, and I'm a photographer and videographer based out of Utah, and this is my story. So welcome to the channel. Hope you guys like it, and let's kind of get into it. First things first, I want to kind of introduce myself. I've been doing videography and photography for a while. I'm a little bit newer to the videography game, but been doing photography for about 4 years, maybe a little bit more. And I just wanted to kind of start this and kind of be able to help whoever I can help, and spread along any information that is helpful, or just fun stuff, or whatever it can be. But I wanted to get into this first type thing and talk about lenses. There's so many different lenses to choose from. You got Sigma, Tamron, Nikon, Canon, Sony lenses. I wanted to talk about how you can pick a good lens for what you guys are wanting to do, and what intrigues you, and what kind of photographers that inspire you, and things like that. So if you haven't checked out my Instagram page, I'll link it below. I do a lot of portrait and lifestyle commercial stuff for companies and people and things like that. It's pretty cool. Check it out if you want to. But back to lenses. So I've owned a bunch of different lenses since I started photography. I've owned 70 to 200s, 24 to 70s, 50 millimeters, 35 millimeters, 24 millimeters, whatever it can be. And I will say that my favorite lens so far, after owning all of these different lenses, is by far a 50 millimeter lens. Not just because it's like everyone else's favorite lens, but just there's really, really good bokeh, and you also get a really, really shallow depth of field, which is nice, especially for those really nice detailed shots that you're doing, whether it be portraits or product or anything like that. I usually recommend, and this was recommended to me when I got into photography, is I thought, okay, what's the first lens I should buy? Because I had the Nikon D3300 with the kit lens, and also the kit 70 to 200 or whatever freak came out of that thing. And I have just never been I was never satisfied with that when having that, because I was inspired by other people that were taking these amazing photos, and I wanted to get the same kind of quality. And it doesn't matter what you shoot on, but definitely there are some limitations with having those kit lenses. And even buying the first lens that I did buy, my game just like shot up like crazy as far as the quality of the stuff that I was making, because that lens that I bought, the first lens that I bought, was so much nicer. And so that first lens I bought was a Nikon 50mm 1.8 G lens, which was like at the time $225. I think they're around like $175 or something like that. I'll link below if any of you guys are Nikon shooters out there. But yeah, it was an awesome lens. Like, I could pretty much shoot everything I wanted to. It's not too tight, it's not too wide. I could still shoot some decent landscapes with it. It's not the best landscape lens, but I shot some decent photos with it for landscape stuff. But primarily I do a lot of like portraits and lifestyle photos, so it really, really was perfect for what I needed. And when people ask me what the first lens they should get, it's usually what I tell them is get a 50mm, unless they have a certain really specific style that they're going for. Then I'll give some other recommendations. But that brings me into what I really wanted to talk about, and that is the Sigma 50mm art lens versus this Tamron 45mm. Yes, it's not a 50mm, but it is a 45, which is almost identical, I guess. It's really, really small difference between the two. But this lens, when I was shooting on Nikon, was my favorite lens. I just switched over to Canon, so I've been doing a lot more videography and things like that, so it just made sense for me. This lens was my go-to lens. This was on my camera body for probably 90% of everything that I shot. And so when I switched over, I was like, okay, well, now I need to buy another Sigma 50mm art lens. So I was looking everywhere. Canon's a lot more popular in Utah. I'm not sure if it's like this everywhere else, but it's a lot more popular as far as the people in Utah. So they were completely sold out everywhere with that Sigma 50mm art lens. And so I did some research, and I found out about this Tamron 45mm. It's a 1.8, so it's a little bit slower than this Sigma, but it has VC. And if you don't know what VC is, VC for Tamron is their vibration control, which is their image stabilization that's built into the lens. So if you're shooting handheld video or you're shooting in super low light situations, you can actually get a couple stops better performance out of this lens because it has that vibration control. So you can shoot at 1/20th of a second or 1/10th of a second and still get sharp photos with, rather than the Sigma where I would never go past like 1/80th of a second with this lens just because it's so heavy and I tend to have a little bit more shake in my hands than most people. So I really like this lens a lot. Actually, I've only had it for like 2 weeks, but I would dare say that the photos that I've been able to pull out of this lens have been super comparable to the photos that I've gotten with my Sigma 50mm art lens, and in some cases even a little bit better, only because it's got that VC built into it. And so there were some situations where I didn't want to bump up my ISO, but I didn't want to drop my shutter speed super duper low, but I could because this has the built-in vibration control into it, which is super nice. But another thing that I really like about this lens is it's super light, especially compared, I mean, it's not like a toy. You're not gonna hey dad, catch. You're not gonna throw it. But at the same time, this lens is super heavy. It's almost as heavy as my 24-70, which is a zoom lens, which is, they tend to be a lot heavier. And so what's nice about this is it's a lot lighter, and it just feels like it's not gonna break when I drop it like my 50mm for my Nikon did, because it was pure plastic. This has got some really nice metal on the outside of it. It's kind of got the SP kind of copying Sigma's A for their art lenses. So this is like super performance or something like that stands for. But this lens, money lens right here, especially for the price. I don't know if I mentioned that, but this lens is half of the price of the Nikon's 50mm art lens. And like I said, images are about just as good as the Sigma 50mm for half the price. If you're someone that's on a budget and you don't want to spend a shiz ton of money on a lens, I couldn't think of a better lens to spend your money on than this one if you don't have the $950 that costs for the Sigma 50mm art lens. And that's just my personal opinion. Some people might say that this lens is crap and I hate it and the Sigma is so much better. But I like this lens a lot. Super nice, super affordable, and if you're someone that's just starting out, I don't think that you could go wrong with this lens. Anyways, that's it for me today, guys. I just wanted to kind of give you some of my thoughts on these two lenses. Honestly, this lens is my baby. I love this lens. It's so awesome, but I don't have the Nikon anymore, so I gotta get rid of it. And in the meantime, I'm gonna be shooting on this Tamron 45mm 1.8. Super awesome. It's got the VC image stabilizer in it, so I look forward to shooting more with this lens and kind of doing maybe a more in-depth review in the future. Peace out.